What you hear a lot at this time of the year in the NFL is a simple phrase. It's just week one. That's what a lot of fans and experts and analysts like to say in their reactions to what happens in the opening week of the season. They think that their preseason predictions that they were so sure of, and I'm included in that group, they'll come true as the season progresses. Things will just fall into place. No need to overreact to the opening week. But these NFL teams, while they don't want to overreact, necessarily give up if they have a poor showing or assume they're winning the Super Bowl if they have an opening weekend victory. At the same time, they don't want to not react to what happens at all because failures to capitalize on opportunities or get better or address major issues could lead to that team having a disappointing season. So, with that in mind, here are some teams that I think have the most at stake coming into week two. One of the teams that has the most at stake is, unfortunately, my favorite team, the Green Bay Packers, who were thoroughly embarrassed by the Saints in opening weekend, 38-3. The whole team looked out of sync, not just Aaron Rodgers, although the media has been talking about his offseason holdout. That's the main story coming out of the game. But the thing is, Aaron Rodgers is the least of the Packers' problems and what they need to fix coming in this week. Zadarius Smith just went on injured reserve. He's one of the few major playmakers on this Packers defense. Darnell Savage is also hurt. It's unclear if he's going to play this weekend or not right now, but him being injured takes away two of, in my opinion, the three major playmakers on the Packers defense, with Jair Alexander the only remaining above average Pro Bowl caliber guy. As when you go to the offensive side of the ball as well, the offensive line is very banged up right now. Dave Bakhtiari obviously is out half the season while he's still recovering from his ACL tear from last season. We've got two rookie starters in the starting lineup that are unproven, and Elgton Jenkins, the guard, is playing tackle. So the offensive line is in shambles. And overall, I think what the Packers is, I don't think that what they need to react to isn't necessarily getting blown out. It's more that they need to take a look in the mirror because the NFC is going to be very competitive. And while the Packers should have a cakewalk division title waiting for them, the thing is the rest of the NFC is much harder than this NFC North division. And while I do expect the Packers to thoroughly dismantle the Lions on Monday Night Football, if they don't, even if they win narrowly, that could be really concerning. So I think the Packers need to come out and just put up 40 points like they were last season on this Detroit team. Otherwise, they could be in trouble. Another team who's going to need to bounce back in week two is the Tennessee Titans, who, similar to the Packers, were embarrassed. They lost 38-13 to the Cardinals. Kyler Murray was doing whatever he wanted and more against that Titans defense, a defense they thought was going to be improved a lot after this offseason. They signed Bud Dupree, admittedly who's coming off a torn Achilles, but they signed him to a big deal coming over from Pittsburgh. They drafted Caleb Farley in the first round, as well as signing Janoris Jenkins. They were hoping those two guys would be huge improvements in the secondary, but the Titans defense showed no such signs of improvement against the Cardinals last Sunday. And as for the offense, without Arthur Smith, they looked lost. Derrick Henry couldn't really find any momentum. The offensive line, especially Taylor Lewan, their supposed best lineman, allowed Chandler Jones to sack Ryan Tannehill 5 times. And even Julio Jones and A.J. Brown just couldn't get going. Now, the Titans, admittedly, similar to the Packers, have an easy division. I don't think the Jaguars or the Texans will even sniff the playoffs. And, we'll see with the Colts. I kind of liked what they did against the Seahawks early. They kind of fell apart late. But similar to the Packers, if the Titans win the division, I think that's expected. But if they're going to be Super Bowl contenders like they wanted, that defense is going to need to show up, and the offense is definitely going to need to prove itself. And there was concerns that losing Arthur Smith, because Mike Vrabel's a defensive-minded coach, which is hilarious because the defense is very poor. Vrabel's been a winning coach so far with the Titans, but this might be the year where he kind of proves that maybe it wasn't all him. Maybe it was more Arthur Smith, similar to that Dan Quinn, Kyle Shanahan dynamic with the Atlanta Falcons. So the Titans are going to need to get a commanding win this week if they want to prove that they're Super Bowl contenders. Another team I think has a pivotal Week 2 matchup ahead of them this weekend is the Dallas Cowboys. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the season opener very narrowly, 31-29. And while their defense still looked pretty shaky, not able to get a lot of stops, the offense looked fantastic, which we thought was a possibility. Even though Dak Prescott was coming off that injury, he looked great. But the thing with Dallas is injuries have piled up very fast in the past week. Michael Gallup will be out for an extended amount of time. as will DeMarcus Lawrence. I believe Randy Gregory is also injured, and Lyle Collins just got suspended for 5 games on the offensive line. They will be getting all-pro guard Zach Martin back, but the addition does not really outweigh the subtractions for this Cowboys team. And they're going up with a very, very good Chargers team this week. And the Chargers have a good defense, unlike Dallas, so they can kind of balance out that offense-defense approach that Dallas just doesn't have. But if the Cowboys can get a win this week and prove that offense can get victories despite the defense, which they weren't able to do in week 1, I think that would be huge for the Cowboys, because the thing is, even though they're in the NFC East, getting off to a 0-2 start when you have a defense that's a major liability is not a good look at all for them. And I think that offense just needs to come out and prove that they can just put up 40 points on anyone. They almost did it against Tampa. I think if they put up 30, 40 points against the Chargers, that would be an important statement to make for their team. Finally, one more team I think has a big opportunity ahead of themselves in Week 2 is the Miami Dolphins. They already have a win on the season, beating the Patriots last week, opening weekend, and they're going up against another division rival this week, the Buffalo Bills, a team that made the AFC Championship game last year. So if the Dolphins were able to get the victory this week, I think it could be a huge statement for the team. They'd get off to a 2-0 start in the division, which of course could prove huge later in the season for tiebreakers, especially in a division that could have up to 3 playoff teams, with the Patriots and Bills also certainly having their sights set on the playoffs this season. And if the Bills fall to the Dolphins this week, I think it would probably be because Tua and the rest of the offense start to click. The defense is what it is. They have playmakers on that defense, of course, led by Xavier Howard, but other guys as well that are very good. But the offense is what needs to step up. And if guys like Myles Gaskin and Jalen Waddle can start really getting going with Tua this week, building that chemistry up, I think it could be huge for this Miami team. They're very well coached. And even though a lot of people might have pegged them as not making the playoffs this year, going 2-0 in the division to start the year could be the motivator they need to take that next step and really become true contenders in the AFC.